Good afternoon, Washington State. My name is Ash Black, and it's another beautiful afternoon here in the heart of Washington, where we are beaming our beautiful brainwaves directly to you from our home here in our beloved Kitsap County at the one and only Bremerton-Kitsap Public Access Studios. This afternoon, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in to another episode of Afternoons with Ash, and also to remind you to hit the like and subscribe button below, or even to set a reminder to catch every one of our amazing broadcasts. Today we have a very special guest who is truly making waves in the political arena here in Kitsap County. She's a dynamic leader with a vision for progress and equity. She has a rich background in legal advocacy and community service and is deeply committed to accessible healthcare and social justice. As General Counsel for Peninsula Community Health Services, she's been at the forefront of connecting patients with essential legal services, ensuring that everyone has access to the help that they need, regardless of their circumstances. And throughout her career, she has made significant strides in social justice. She has worked tirelessly with the ACLU of Washington, advancing critical issues such as marriage equality and the Washington Voting Rights Act. Her legal expertise and commitment to justice have always made a substantial impact in our community. She is dedicated to building an infrastructure of opportunity that includes healthcare, education, housing, and environmental justice, and is focused on creating a future where everyone can thrive, regardless of where they start in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is candidate for State Representative District 23, a candidacy that is not just about winning an election, it's about bringing real, meaningful change to our community. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into the inspiring vision of my friend, Brynn Felix. Brynn, thank you so much for joining us on our show today.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. You have a background that's incredibly diverse, and it's rich in community service and legal advocacy. Would you share a little bit with myself and my audience about your journey and what inspired you to pursue a career in public service?
Sure. Well, I'm the daughter of two Navy veterans, and when my mother left the service, she ended up becoming a career community college teacher. So service was certainly a virtue that was part of my family. It was part of our just ethics. And I always was deciding between, do I want to be a lawyer? Do I want to be a teacher? I love working with young people. And so I started my public service journey exploring teaching. During college, I worked as a high school marching band coach. I then, after college, I spent my last year of college, I should say, living in Budapest, Hungary. And when I came back, I decided to explore teaching further. So I moved to Japan and I taught elementary and junior high English there. But I was desperate to get back to Hungary. And so I wanted to further explore public service and human rights specifically. So I moved back to Hungary and I got my master's in human rights. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to take that down a route to teach about human rights or do human rights work. But as I was exploring just education inequities for Hungarian Roma children and a whole bunch of human rights issues that we were focusing on. I mean, we studied humanitarian law, laws of war, women's rights, free speech in Europe. I decided that I wanted to stay and really dig into human rights work. But as all best laid plans occur, mine ended up being derailed because I met the person who ended up being my spouse in Hungary, which is what brought me here to the Pacific Northwest. I came back, I needed a job, and so I did what I knew really well, which is going back to teaching. So I taught kindergarten and pre-K for a year, but I was really clamoring on, I wanted to go back and do more human rights related work. And so I started volunteering at the ACLU, which then became a staff attorney position. So I know this is kind of a roundabout answer to your question about service, but really the journey was discovering how can I best serve my community, working with young people. Youth are our future, and so I explored that path, and I decided ultimately to go to law school because my work with the ACLU, I realized that the best way for me to serve was working as an advocate and not day-to-day as an educator. And so from the ACLU, where we talked about, I was a community organizer working on our marriage equality campaign. I participated in the lawsuit when the ACLU sued the city of Yakima for violating the Latino population's right to vote under the Federal Voting Rights Act. I found that work really inspiring, really impactful. And I was also doing direct lobbying around anti-death penalty work. So I was gaining a lot of different advocacy experience in Olympia, working with communities to mobilize their advocacy. And I wanted to take that to the next level. So I went and got my law degree at Boston University, where I received a full ride as a public interest scholar. So I knew I was absolutely dedicating my life to public service through the legal sphere. And when I came back from law school, I should say I spent my last semester working for Senator Patty Murray on the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions as her law clerk. And that was incredible working on that team. I was there during the Trump administration, this was 2018, conducting oversight. I mean, I was on the oversight committee of that large committee, doing congressional oversight of the Trump's FDA, the Trump CDC. And I learned a ton there, learning from her leadership how she gets stuff done in government as a strong progressive Democrat, not compromising her values, but being able to work across the aisle. It was really magnificent to see in practice. So I came back. I worked briefly as a transportation and maritime lawyer and left that job to clerk at our Supreme Court for Justice Mary Yu, which was another just transformative opportunity, learning about our state constitution, learning how our judges review statutes, look at our constitution, which is very much a living document. And I left that job to go work as counsel for Peninsula Community Health Services.
So what led you to your candidacy now of District 23? You know, currently we have, I believe it's 5 different candidates running.
4.
4 total.
Yes.
And, you know, the landscape at the moment is fairly diverse with backgrounds and whatnot. But I think one of the things that stood out about you in particular was that you have such a wide-ranging expertise around the board. And I think that, you know, that's come up a few times. Why don't you speak on that for a moment for me?
Sure. Is the question about how I differ from other candidates, or?
Yes, I would like to know, in your words, what you think Washington is in need of and what your candidacy could bring versus maybe some of the opponents that are in this race currently.
Sure. So there's one Republican from Bainbridge Island and 2 other Democrats in the race. One is a retired pediatric dentist and one is the appointed incumbent, Greg Nance. I am running, like you said, to build our infrastructure of opportunity. I want to bring my expertise as a classroom teacher, bring my advocacy expertise, mobilizing community, and in particular communities that typically and historically have not been included in our political process, to work on equitable access to healthcare services, to work toward universal healthcare, universal childcare, and to bring an equity lens to all of these important issues. Transportation and healthcare, these all intersect. These are, I have pillars of what I believe build this infrastructure of opportunity, but they are all so deeply connected. You know, where you're born, where you grow up dictates your opportunities. You know, where your zip code is dictates what kinds of resources your local school has. Where you grow up dictates what access to healthcare services are available. And so I'm really driven. I'm privileged to have had the opportunity to work as a teacher, to work now in healthcare for our healthcare safety net entity for our region. And I want to bring a holistic equity lens and understanding to push these issues forward in Olympia.
While we're speaking on healthcare, obviously you are a strong advocate for accessible and affordable healthcare. What specific changes do you think would be necessary to improve the quality of access in our state?
Sure. Well, that's a multi-pronged strategy. There's a piece of it is workforce. We need to strengthen and support our healthcare workforce. There are smaller regulatory changes we can do to be able to incentivize people to come to our jurisdiction. So, for example, I participate in recruitment and retention at my agency.
Yeah.
We know that there are providers who've decided not to come here because it can take 3 to 6 months for them to be able to see a patient due to what we call credentialing and privileging. So if you want to accept Medicaid and serve our Apple Health population, which desperately needs access to services, the waiting periods are obscene, and there are small things we can do to change that. So there are things we can do to streamline access to providers. There's more we can do to bring providers here.
Yeah.
We can reduce barriers to reciprocity. If there's someone who wants to move here from Alabama or Montana to serve as an OBGYN, there's more we can, or a licensed mental health counselor,
Sure.
more to do to help make it easier for them to transfer their licenses over. So there's the people side of it, and making sure that our workforce has strong protections, strong safety protections. I was just talking with nurses who feel that staffing ratios are unsafe. It's unsafe for them, it's unsafe for patients. So there's more to do to support that workforce, which is part of why we're seeing burnout, especially during and after COVID.
Yeah.
Then there's the plank of insurance coverage. We need to move toward universal health coverage. That I don't think is going to look like an overnight, huge systems transformation. What more likely that's going to be is slowly increasing access to Apple Health. We've seen that the legislature has had an appetite to do that recently with their expansion of Apple Health to undocumented immigrants.
Sure.
And I was there this session in Olympia advocating to increase or funding for that particular program, which was created 2 sessions ago. So health insurance coverage, the conversations I'm having with people, as I'm knocking doors, is people are afraid to get a $2 promotion because then that means they're going to get kicked off of Apple Health and won't be able to pay for private insurance. There's so many people on the margins, people who are elderly and maybe have retired a little early but are not yet eligible for Medicare, who are worried about getting sick because they're not insured. So there's a lot of folks on the margins that we need to do more to take care of and to look after.
Would you say that the folks in Olympia can see, that obvious connection, the danger that it represents when $2 can be the difference between feeding your family or having health care for the month? Do you feel that that's been noticed by others, and how will you bring that to their attention when you arrive there?
I certainly don't think that I'm the only one who is seeing things or hearing these things. I think it will vary depending on the district that we're in. I think rural communities face very different challenges from downtown Seattle. I think that partly depends on whether they're hearing their constituents and whether their constituents feel like they have the opportunity to share those stories. So I certainly hope so. And what I hope to bring to the conversation is, I'm a healthcare administrator. I work in this space. I work with populations that are not insured and underinsured. And I'll just, briefly say Peninsula Community Health is a federally qualified health center. There's 27, now 28 of us in Washington State. And the federal mandate is to serve everyone without regard for insurance or ability to pay. So there are many people who were unenrolled from Medicaid after COVID. I think there's mindfulness about that. And the discussions need to be, how do we make sure that we're moving toward protecting people who need access to healthcare?
Yeah.
So the insurance is one plank of it. Universal coverage is what I would like to see us move toward. The other is universal access to services. Kitsap County is lacking in access to primary care, specialty care, behavioral health services, especially when it comes to more acute level care. So the other piece of bringing healthcare to our state and to Kitsap County, and I don't think Kitsap County is necessarily unique in this. There's access issues across the board. But one thing I do as counsel is advocate to our delegation, please help us bring resources here so that the agencies that are building out our healthcare infrastructure are able to do so. So Kitsap Mental Health Services has been building out mental health. They're building a school for youth who need additional behavioral health services.
Absolutely. They've actually, to my understanding recently, been granted some additional land for building
Yes.
a school.
Yes.
They also got the magnetic imaging machine that
Yes.
they're now
Yep.
offering to, populations that greatly need it. So definitely very proud of all the work that they're doing there, and would love to see them get some more funds to continue that mission.
And I would love to be their partner in that. I'll say dental access is huge here. I believe there's only one provider that provides adult Medicaid dental services, preventive. And, PCHS in particular has built one dental clinic every year the last 6 years. And the access to state capital funding is critical for that, for any agency that is building our healthcare infrastructure. And so that's an area where there are certainly gaps that I think almost everybody is aware of, but there are also opportunities.
And we sure love seeing all of those beautiful Kitsap County smiles, all well and taken care of, don't we?
Yeah.
Education is also another area, obviously, that is very important to you. I think this is something about you that carries through in everything you do. I think people can naturally, surmise that you have that teacherness about you. Does that sound weird? I apologize. Brynn, education is another important area that you are very passionate about. What initiatives do you plan to implement to support early learning K through 12 and education in the post-high school atmosphere here in District 23?
Sure. When it comes to early learning, I want to tie that in with childcare because those early years are absolutely critical for development and enrichment. So in terms of childcare, I would like to see us moving toward universal childcare, which of course will require significant investments from the legislature, but also making it easier for individuals to open childcare facilities. I've talked with individuals who want to open them, but more technical assistance is required. So helping people be able to create those facilities will be critical. When it comes to K through 12, the McCleary case found that our legislature had failed to fulfill its paramount duty to fully fund education. There was a huge investment as a result of that, but every year the appropriations toward K through 12 have been diminishing. When we talk about fully funding education, McCleary did not cover special education. And I've talked to so many parents with kids on IEPs who don't feel supported or whose kids feel like they're falling through the cracks in our public schools. McCleary didn't fully fund our education workforce entirely. It left out classified workers, those essential workers like paraeducators who are the workforce that is supporting our students with developmental disabilities, our workforce that's supporting our multilingual students, and again, those most at risk of falling through the cracks of our public education system. We need to be devoting more toward MSOC, basic materials. So we just need more funding for K through 12, and we need more, I'll just say Democrats and Republicans kind of ringing the bell to say this needs to be a state priority. We only have a certain amount of money in our general fund. More of that, in my opinion, needs to be going to basic education. And then briefly speaking, post-high school opportunities, there's some great work around workforce development going on. I would say we need to continue investing in apprenticeships and specifically paid apprenticeships. So, Drew Hansen's done some great work around increasing access to college and building those pathways. We need to just keep going with that. I'm a huge supporter of our community college system, but also making sure that other vocational pathways are available and supporting the trades, supporting just all of those programs across the board.
You also do a lot of work in social justice and equity. And, from what I understand, this is going to be core to your campaign. Can you discuss some of the specific policies that you would be willing to advocate for to promote racial and economic justice here in Washington State and in our county?
Sure. I have a bold vision for universal health care and child care and fully funding schools because those are all deep equity issues. And a lot of that comes down to funding. So I am a strong proponent of increasing our progressive revenue. It's important. We have one of the most regressive tax systems in the country. I think we were 49th until we passed capital gains and then surpassed Florida. But the result is people who earn the least are paying the most. People who earn the most are paying the least. We can and must expect that corporations that are making billions of dollars in revenue here in Washington State, who've benefited from our systems, need to be paying more. Moreover, when it comes to equity issues, we need to be looking at all of the systems where we see disproportionate impact for communities of color. We need to be looking at what we can do to end mass incarceration, ending juvenile life without parole, and working to dismantle those systems, dismantling the school to prison pipeline. And on a more positive note, continue to support, I'd say, linguistic access for our Indigenous languages in schools, making sure that we are preserving the cultural history of all of our populations. I'm thinking in particular of Karen Vargas here in Kitsap County, who's done so much to preserve the African American history that is so rich in our county that's not well known.
Yeah.
So there's really opportunities to amplify the great work and leadership that's going on locally to support youth just learning about their own history here.
If elected, what do you think your first 3 actions you would take as a state representative would be to start making an immediate impact here in our county?
Great. Well, do you mean legislation, or who am I going to talk to?
Well, just in legislation, what do you think your first 3 exercises would be?
Sure. First one, I want to create something similar to the old Take Charge program, which allowed providers to bill the Department of Health when youth were seeking access to confidential reproductive health services. I want to create something similar for youth to be able to access their confidential behavioral health, so mental health counseling and substance use disorder treatment. That's one thing. It is not a very exciting policy tweak, but there's precedent for it, and I think it'll encourage more providers to work to provide coverage for those youth who are seeking those services. Second, I want to end healthcare non-competes across the board. There's been some regulatory movement at the federal level, but it doesn't cover all nonprofits, it doesn't cover franchises, and we need to make sure that our healthcare providers have the ability to stay in their communities if they decide to leave their job.
Right.
It's an issue for labor, and it's a patient access issue. So for me, there's no question we need to get rid of healthcare non-competes. Third, I'm currently working as a part of a work group with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner to see if we can create a state-funded malpractice insurance, so community providers who are helping people who are exiting incarceration back into the community can provide those services in jails. Now, this is not to replace the medical workforce in jails or replace state jobs.
Sure.
But as people are reentering into community, the legislature has created a benefit, and this has come down where Medicaid is reinstated earlier. We want to make sure people are set up for success to reenter, to have the substance use disorder treatment and visits and medications that they need, for example. But the big barrier that a lot of lawmakers didn't understand was that providers can't get into the jails because the malpractice insurance is so high.
And it's preventing that.
Exactly. So they created this wonderful benefit, but didn't realize that providers are struggling to even provide that in this particular setting. So that's something I'm really excited to work on.
We only have time for one more question.
Sure.
But I think I saved the best for last here, especially with your experience. What advice would you give to young people and aspiring politicians out there who are looking to possibly make a difference in their community or here in our community?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is go out and vote. But really, when it comes to making a difference, the more local we're acting, the more impactful it's going to be. Is my vote for president going to be as impactful as my vote for my local school board member? Absolutely not. Go with your school board. These races are won and lost by sometimes less than 100 votes.
Yeah.
Now, for those who are not wanting to get involved in the political process, there's so much leadership going on. You don't have to attend a party meeting to be impactful in your community. We've got incredible nonprofit organizations here. Join a board, get involved, go volunteer. And I'm really heartened by this campaign because of the amount of young people who've not been involved in politics, people who've never attended a party meeting, who are excited. and who are for the first time feeling a little bit optimistic, right? This campaign is not just about building political strength, it's about building community, we're doing community building, you know, and it just happens to be through a political lens at the moment. But your voice matters more than you could possibly know. And that's the message that I want all, not just young people, but anyone out there who's feeling concerned, scared. You know, we need to focus on what we can control, and we can control a lot. And just that one person can make a huge difference.
Brynn, you're one of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ash.
Thank you for being on our show today.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today's enlightening conversation with Brynn Felix, it's evident that her vision for District 23 is rooted in a deep commitment to service, justice, and community. Brynn's dedication to accessible healthcare, equitable education, and sustainable environmental policies represents the forward-thinking leadership that our community needs. Our communities flourish when we support each other, and I want to take a moment to highlight some incredible local nonprofits that are making a significant impact here in Kitsap County. Organizations like Doc Loves the Kids. They provide essential services to at-risk youth and host free community events, truly making a difference in people's lives. The Kitsap Community Foundation is another fantastic organization supporting a wide range of causes through grants and community initiatives, ensuring that nonprofits across Kitsap County have the resources they need to thrive and serve. Please consider donating to these and other local nonprofits to help them continue their vital work. Together, we can create a stronger, more supportive community for everyone. And speaking of being a strong member of the community, don't forget to tune in for future episodes of Afternoons with Ash Black, where we strive to bring you more inspiring stories and exciting content. You can find all of our episodes on our YouTube channel and catch the live broadcasts on BKAT, as well as all the extras at Afternoons with Ash Black on Facebook. Thank you.